Let's grade the AFC. We start with the AFC East because apparently we just like to torture me and make the best division go last. The AFC East, we will start with the Buffalo Bills as we are grading every single draft so far through this. So Buffalo, an interesting one because they trade down a couple of times, including a controversial trade with the Chiefs that helped the Chiefs get exactly what they want. But in the process of trading down, they get Keon Coleman, the wide receiver out of Florida State, who for a wide receiver in this year's draft did not run particularly well at the combine, but has had some good tape. They get Cole Bishop, a Utah safety, a really good player there. Dwayne Carter out of Duke in the third round, and then sweet baby Ray Davis out of Kentucky. That's my nickname for him. He can choose to take it. Should have gotten that NIL deal. Felt like a pretty good, this is funny to me. If you look at ESPN.com, and you look at what they identified as the team needs coming into this year's draft for Buffalo. Wide receiver, corner, safety, edge, and center. All of them are now green dotted because they got all of those in this year's draft. So I think this was a pretty solid draft for Buffalo. B. I'll give it a B. I didn't give it a letter grade. My bad.
I gave the Bills a C. Wasn't as high in it because I'll tell you why. I just don't love Keon Coleman. I just think when you are a 4-6 type receiver who's not great at getting any separation, it makes everything else have to be perfect. You could live that way. Des Bryant wasn't a great separator, but he was one of the best contested catch guys we've ever seen. Maybe Michael Irvin falls in that bucket too. You can make it work. And Keon Coleman was a very good college receiver, but I just don't love him out of all the receivers that went around there. And I didn't really like the Bills' moves back. I thought they should have been moving up, but they moved back. They moved back from 28 to 32. Everybody's banging on them. How can you help the Chiefs? I think Bill Belichick had a really good clip when he was talking about it of, don't worry about the other team. That's not how NFL teams operate. Do what's best for you. So I didn't hate the move back from 28 to 32. From 32 to 33 baffled me. You got nothing in return. You got a late round pick swap with the Panthers, 6-5, I believe it was. You gave up the 5th round option on Keon Coleman. What if he is a stud? What if he is Des Bryant? All of a sudden, you've given up cost control in the 5th round, and for what? To move up from the 6th round to the 5th? Like that? That's basically nothing.
That's a really
in the
good
NFL.
point, buddy. That is a really good. I hadn't even thought of that.
Right, and I just didn't like that. And maybe they did like Leggett. We'll never know because no team is honest after the draft. But they watched a lot of receivers go until they took Keon Coleman. Maybe he was their target all along. Maybe he's really going to work out well working with a great quarterback. The reason I didn't fail them or anything, I'm sitting there banging on them, is because I like a lot of the players they got after Keon Coleman. And even Keon Coleman could work out really well. But I thought they should have been multiple at receiver. This is the type of team that should have had 3 receivers come off the board. They had 9 more picks and didn't draft another receiver. I thought they should have packaged some of those 9 picks, move up to get another receiver. They should have been a little more aggressive here. But the players they did draft are good. I get it. You get cornerback help, you get linebacker help, you get some offensive line help. The Bills suddenly they're a pretty thin roster. We think about the Bills as a Super Bowl contender, and they are, but they also at the back end of the roster had a lot of needs. They did fill those needs, but just the way they went about the draft, I gave them a C. I would like to see a lot more receiver help here. It's a better grade if Keon Coleman is the stud they think he is, but for right now, just middle of the road for me with the Bills.
You have talked me into downgrading them to a B- with that 5th-year option. That was a good point by you. I've scratched out the grade. I've changed it on the report card. I will say, Damian Harris on our draft show pointed out, even in our prep process, having just come out of that locker room, that the Bills internally believe in their wide receivers. But even more importantly, I thought this was interesting. They look at the net number of touchdowns they think Josh Allen can account for, 40 to 45 a year between passing, running. They think he can account for 40 to 45. They don't believe any one wide receiver will make a difference in that number. He will still account for 40 to 45.
How could you ask your quarterback to do that much every year in, year out? You're putting so much on his shoulders. Give him some help. And I don't think they did enough to get him help.
All right. So B- for me, C for Frank. Let's move to Minnesota. Good Lord. Let's move to Miami, where the Dolphins took Chop Robinson in the 1st round. Patrick Paul, the offensive tackle out of Houston in the 2nd round. Head scratcher Jalen Wright, running back in the 4th round. Fast dude, but I think there's some real questions there. The real questions part of this, Malik Washington, a name some people know, the wide receiver going in the 6th round. This, to me, did not feel spectacular. Nothing about this really blew my socks off. Chop Robinson was the best edge rusher on the board when they picked. Was he the best player available? I don't know. Is Chop really going to suddenly replace? I understand they had some injury issues. They lost players on the defensive line. It was an area of significant need. I don't suddenly say, well, Chop solves that. Everything's groovy now. It feels like a C draft to me. It was just this. There was a lot of meh to be in this draft.
Yeah, I gave them Dolphins a B. A lot of it depends on Chop Robinson, who I don't love. he's an athletic guy, but not very productive. And sometimes that works out. Ziggy Ansah wasn't a very productive player in college at BYU, but he ended up being a really, really good pro for a few years before injuries got him like they do most guys. It's a rare time when I give a decent grade to a team who I don't love their first round pick because I like they did everything they did after. Patrick Paul, I think, was a really, really good pick for them. I know everybody's banging on a Jalen Wright pick, but they value the running game and running backs. And Raheem Mostert's getting up there in age. He's not going to be there forever. We know Achane, he's not the most durable guy in the world. So I think he fits what they want to do. And he was kind of a size speed freak coming out of Tennessee. I think he'd be really, really productive in that offense. Kamara, the defensive lineman out of Colorado State, I really liked him in the middle rounds. Everybody likes the Malik Washington pick, including me. I like what the Dolphins did after the first round. That's why I gave them a B. And Chop Robinson could work out very, very well. I just don't love guys with that profile. We'll see. But for right now, Dolphins get a B. I like what they did after the first round.
All right. So the Jets, for all the conversation about would they take a weapon, they did the smart thing in the first round, taking Olu Fashanu, who could have on some boards gone much higher, I believe, out of Penn State. A lot of potential for Olu. He's got to live up to that potential at some point, but that pick made so much sense for me. I loved it. Malachi Corley, the wide receiver out of Western Kentucky, at the top of the third round is let's see. Like, to me, that's the ultimate roll of the dice because that Western Kentucky offense is so like run and gun. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like. Braylon Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin, who's younger than anybody thinks, coming in the fourth round was also interesting. And then Jordan Travis, a bit of a developmental pick there from the quarterback at Florida State, who we all know was obviously a big part of why they were so good until the injury late in the season. So I thought there was a lot of good here. Like, I gave this draft, like, you could talk me into a B+, but I'm a solid B with it.
I give the Jets a B-. And a big part of this is my love for Brock Bowers. I think Bowers is the best college tight end I've ever seen, as we've talked about on the show before. I would have loved to have seen him with Aaron Rodgers. Look, I get picking Fashanu. He's a very, very good left tackle. When he came back to Penn State, everybody was shocked because they're like, wow, this guy could have been a top 5 pick. He still has that talent for sure. But it kind of makes the signing of Tyron Smith redundant. Like, I get it. Tyron Smith is going to miss games. He's old. Then why sign him in the first place? I get you don't know the Fashanu is going to fall to you. I still wanted to see them get Bowers. I thought he really, really would have rounded this offense out so well. I get the Fashanu pick. I'm probably being a little harsh on it just because I love Brock Bowers so much. After that, Corley I thought was a good dart throw. Obviously, I know Braylon Allen well, being a Wisconsin guy. He was awesome as a freshman and kind of just tapered off after that. Maybe that was Luke Fickell's offenses last year when Wisconsin absolutely lost its identity as a program, but that's a different show. I thought Jordan Travis, maybe I'm just buying into the story here, but I like the pick. He's so easy to root for. All the intangibles in the world, obviously, that horrible leg injury that derailed his season, Florida State season late. You're rooting for that guy. Ultimately, though, I give him a B-. And most of that is because I think they're going to watch Brock Bowers become a superstar elsewhere. And even if Fashanu's a really, really good left tackle, I think they're just going to regret passing on Bowers. I'll be honest.
New England, for me, had the best draft in their division. Hard not to give them an A because I think they got an underrated quarterback in Drake May, and I do mean underrated. Jalen Polk, and I think an underrated wide receiver in the second round. They get Wallace, they get Robinson. They got guys that can come in and immediately compete to play on the offensive line. Like, I thought this was a really solid draft by the Patriots. I give it an A.
I gave it an A-. I mean, yes, I could have given it an A. I thought May at number 3 was really, really smart. Don't trade down if you're the Patriots. You need a quarterback. Look, it's hard to win in the NFL without a quarterback, and you got a guy who fell in your lap who it's telling that multiple teams were offering a ton to move up to draft Drake May. The light bulb should turn on at that point and say, well, this kid might be really good. They knew that, obviously. They picked him. I thought that was really, really smart. Get your quarterback, build around him. Jalen Polk helps that. A lot of people like Polk coming out of Washington. Hard to not like him. Look, we knew exactly what the Patriots' plan was looking at their draft. 7 of their 8 picks went on the offensive side. They know our offense stinks. We got to fix that. I thought they did. I give the Patriots an A-. Really, really solid draft. Did what they needed to do. And not trading out of that 3 spot, I think, is going to be something that they're really going to be happy about for the next decade.
I think the Patriots are the best in the division, the worst in the division. It's kind of a toss-up for a lot of these different teams. I could go Dolphins as the worst in the division. I think that's where I'll go, but it's pretty close. They're all pretty tight for me.
Yeah, I obviously Patriots best draft in the division. I went with the Bills as my worst just because, again, I don't know that they solved receiver, and I don't like this philosophy of, well, we got Superman at quarterback and he doesn't need any help. Life is easier when you get help, even for Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, help out Josh Allen. That's why I gave the Bills a C. But again, if Keon Coleman becomes a superstar receiver, and a lot of people think he can, then his draft grade looks a lot better for the Bills.